Hello everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Alivia and I make videos about anthropology every single Monday. And today we're diving into what I find to be a very interesting topic. That topic being, what is pastoralism? And in addition to defining and breaking down this term, we're also going to touch a little bit on how pastoralism is a part of the field of anthropology. So without further ado, let's just do it. Now, if you were to Google pastoralism online, you're going to be presented with this very simple definition: the practice of herding as the primary economic activity of a society, right? And yes, this is true, but it leaves out literally so many details, so we're going to dive into it more deeply today. But the first thing that I want you to focus on within this definition is the practice of herding, right? So pastoralism is extremely interrelated with human cultures relying on their animals, on their herds for survival. Although, right from the beginning, I wanted to mention that pastoralism is not simply about raising and consuming your animals for survival. It's very layered, and in addition to that, a big part of pastoralism is using every single part of the animal. So you're not simply raising an animal for slaughter necessarily. You are using your cows for their milk. You are harvesting eggs from chickens, leather, like anything that you can think of. All parts of the animal do get used to varying degrees in pastoralist communities. And yeah, that's just a huge part of pastoralism that I did want to mention very, very early on into this video before we dive into some of the nitty-gritty. Now, traditionally speaking, I think when a lot of people hear the term pastoralism, what might come to mind is a group of people just traveling around with their animals, right? But it turns out that there's actually three different main kinds of pastoralism, all that look a little bit different from each other. So those three different kinds of pastoralism are nomadic pastoralism, semi-nomadic pastoralism, and semisedentary pastoralism. Now we're going to start out with nomadic pastoralism, and this is, I think, closest to what a lot of people think of when they think about pastoralist societies. So nomadic pastoralists are extremely reliant on their herd. It's pretty much the only thing that they're using to survive. You're not going to see other kinds of subsistence strategies integrated into the way that they're living. And as you might guess from the name, nomadic pastoralism, these people are constantly on the move with their herds, right? You always have to make sure that the needs of your herd is met, because if you think about it, the needs of the people can't be met if the needs of the herd aren't satisfied. So if one pasture is eaten up, you're going to keep moving to make sure that, again, all these needs of your animals are completely satisfied. So yes, nomadic pastoralists are completely reliant on their animals and they are constantly on the move. Now, next we have the semi-nomadic pastoralists, and as you might have guessed, they are somewhat less nomadic than the nomadic pastoralists, in that you're seeing both the use of the herd, the animals, as well as a dash of other kinds of subsistence strategies. So you might see a little bit of hunting and gathering. You might see a little bit of horticulture. But again, we are talking about pastoralists here, so the primary thing that they're relying on is still their animals, right? Their livestock. This is a huge part of the day-to-day. But what makes them semi-nomadic, okay, is these people are not always 100% on the move. You might see small sections of the population being like a settled community or living in a settlement or a village. Or you also might see that for certain parts of the year, these communities are somewhat settled, but overall they are still moving around from place to place and relying on their herds with, again, a little dash of other subsistence strategies. Then the final group is the semi-sedentary pastoralists, and this is where you see the highest amount of other kinds of survival subsistence strategies. So you'll see more hunting and gathering, you might see agriculture, you might see horticulture. other kinds of ways to harvest food and things that you need for survival are a significantly bigger part of this kind of pastoralism. And these people are often living in settlements, in villages, and you aren't seeing so much this movement that has to happen for the nomadic and semi-nomadic people. Again, there is still movement. We're talking semi-sedentary here. But again, you are seeing a significant amount more of these other kinds of subsistence strategies and not this 100% reliance on the herd, on the livestock. Now, I know these kinds of pastoralism are somewhat similar to each other, and yes, it can be a little bit difficult to draw the hard line between each of these groups, but I hope through that little exploration you're able to see that there are varying kinds of pastoralism. Really quickly, if you haven't liked or subscribed, definitely do that. We have a lot of fun on this channel, and I also have a fun free Discord now that you can join if you want to talk anthro with other anthro besties. But now back to the video. Now, I did want to touch a little bit on some of the risks and challenges that come with being a pastoralist or participating in pastoralism. And unfortunately, life these days can be significantly harder for pastoralist cultures. The environment has become subject to things like environmental degradation. We see things like climate change going on, and having good weather and good lands and landscapes and grass and all these kinds of things is really, really important for the survival and livelihood of pastoralists. Again, you have to think about the animals and the needs of the herd before you can even begin to think about how humans are satisfied, because they rely on each other immensely. So if the environment is faltering for varying reasons, that impacts these pastoralist communities a lot. You'll have farmers taking up more land. You'll see certain civilizations or cities becoming even bigger and expanding and all of these kinds of things, right? And that does make life for pastoralist cultures very difficult. And that it's something that I think about a lot, and I don't know exactly what the solution is. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts about these challenges that pastoralists face and maybe some things that can be done in the comment section down below. Now, finally, as promised in the beginning of this video, we are going to be talking about how pastoralism is related to anthropology. Now, anthropology is the study of humans. It's what this whole channel is all about. And anthropology gets broken down into 4 subfields. Those subfields are culture, biology, linguistics, and archaeology. Pastoralism is most often studied within the branch of cultural anthropology. So you'll have cultural anthropologists looking to understand pastoralism around the world, right? And remember, pastoralism looks different in every single culture. So there's a lot of nuances to be discovered and learned by anthropologists that come with pastoralist society and pastoralist living. Now, something that I find really interesting, and a lot of anthropologists find really interesting, is that cultural values, pretty much everything about a culture is impacted by the subsistence strategy. So pastoralist communities will have different cultural values depending on the way that they live, right? And so anthropologists are trying to deconstruct how this happens and then reconstruct it, right? Understand exactly, how pastoralist communities survive on the both functional technical level, but also what kind of meaning gets conveyed through pastoralism, what kind of religious ideas or cultural beliefs can come from something like pastoralism. So I hope this was a brief introduction into pastoralism. Very, very interesting. Anthropologists are absolutely studying this all the time. And let me know what kinds of videos you guys would like to see in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all next Monday. All right, you guys. Bye.